The growing calls across the nation to defund the police.
To end policing as we know it.
Off the charts violence in New York City. 11 people shot in just 8 hours on
This is
Sunday.
about the police officers who every single day put on that uniform and they run towards danger when we run away from it.
Guns up!
Giddy up. You know what time it is. It's night shift time, baby. Is this our first night shift of the year?
Yeah, it is.
Is it really?
Absolutely
No,
is.
we did the JFK assassination.
Oh,
early
we did the
January.
JFK assassination. We did that this year. That was a fun episode. We had a lot of people watching there. Welcome to the show. If you're listening, wherever you're at, in your car, at work, when you're supposed to be working and you're listening to this instead, we commend you. That is approved. So we congratulate you, Sarah. In the chat, we are live tonight. And by the way, we have a special guest coming on shortly, the one, the only, B. Tatum. And I know that you guys are going to enjoy this one. We are going to be talking about his new book, Beaten Black and Blue. And I'm excited about this one. I got a lot of questions lined up for him after reading the book that I can't wait to hear what he has to say and share with us. So what have you been up to, Tansey?
Not much, man. Just joined a gym last week. It was kind of cool. And
It's the first gym membership you've ever had?
in a long time.
Are you sure it's not ever?
Nope, I've had a gym membership before.
Okay, all right. So how the experience goes so far?
Well, didn't know that. See, I thought you could just join a gym and then go work out. I didn't realize that you join a gym and then they do like a fitness test to see where you're at. And they like body
I just
fat
joined a
shame
gym
you.
and they did not do a fitness test on me.
Really?
Maybe they
Dude,
were
this
worried
is
about
like-
you dying from a
This
heart
is like
failure.
it's like Globo Gym when I walked in. There's like an instructor at like every orifice of this thing, like watching you, judging you.
That's
telling,
me
like,
grabbing the bull by the
motivating you.
horns. It's a metaphor,
Yes.
but it really happened.
It's in real life, man. And so like I was on the treadmill and they were like, you're Eric, right? And I was like, yep. And they were like, okay, come on over here. And I like got off the treadmill and they're like, yeah, we just want to ask a few questions and do a little quick survey. And then we're gonna do like a little fitness test, see where you're at. And then we're gonna blah, blah. And by the end of it, the dude quit his job.
Why? What
Quit
was the factor
his
here?
job.
What did you say to him? What did you do?
I mean, I just said I didn't care a lot. Like, I was like, I don't know. I don't care. I was like, I'm not really that competitive. And he was like, but if I write you a plan, are you going to stick to it? And I was like, probably not. And I mean, I was like, well, like, what part of your plan do you want me to stick to? I was like, I'm going to come to the gym 3 days a week and I'm going to work hard and maybe I'll come more. But if I go 3 days a week, then I'm winning in my book. But if you write down this workout and I don't want to do it that day, I'm just simply not going to do it. I pay $39 a month to go to a gym. Whatever this is, I appreciate it, but I'm not saying I don't need it because I do. I just don't want it. And like, he was like, you know what? He's like, hang on one second. He like got up and then he went and talked to somebody and he came back. He's like, I'm going to pass you off to this guy. And I was like, I'm done talking, to be honest with you. Like, I just want to leave. And he was like, okay, yeah. He's like, do you want to reschedule? I was like, do you want me to reschedule with you or something? And he was like, no, we're good. Maybe next Tuesday. And then the guy just sent me a text like an hour later. He's like, full transparency, I quit. I don't want to work there anymore.
He didn't want to work there. He didn't want to work with you. That's the real question.
I think just like me saying how much I didn't care and me like looking at him like, why are you talking to me like this?
You
And
gave him no more hope for humanity, man. You took
it's
it away
probably
from
not
him.
his fault that the gym makes him be put in those awkward positions when I really feel like people just want to work out. Like, I don't mind being fat shamed or whatever while I'm there, but I don't need you to like body tape fat me and all the BMIs and all. I don't need all that. I just want to go to the gym.
Get a good swole on.
Yeah, and study for this show without my kids around.
Do you get swole when you're laying on your ghost bed?
Yeah.
We can't talk about that though. That'd make me quit too. If you try to get in swole in my ghost bed, I'd quit too. Before we get Tatum on, let's thank the people that made this show possible. We got ghost bed, and we have our now infamous Manscaped. So tell them what it is. Tell them what it is, Tansey.
It's all about night shift, and we're on night shift right now. And I just had my hot tea. I forgot. I've got this ritual.
What are you, British now? Come on, man.
Listen, we stopped drinking for whatever reason. Michael. This was your
I
idea.
did because I'm not drinking for the. Well, I'll go back to my non-alcoholic IPAs in April, but I'm doing 75 hard right now, so there's none. I cut out even the non-alcoholic beers.
Well, I'm not
So-
that gay. I'm not doing 75 hard. I'm doing
75 hard nights on a soft ghost bed.
Why couldn't they just name it something like not as?
Because 75 easy sounds feminine, man.
Yeah, but 75 hard sounds really gay.
Only if you
nothing
have
wrong with
like
that.
some
It sounds
type of
kinky.
weird
How about
tendencies
that?
in the back of your mind.
I'm
You got
doing
something
75
repressed in there that you
hard.
need to get out. We're talking a different show, man. We can't drag Brandon through that.
I'm doing 75 loose. No, but I drank the Sleepy Time hot tea accidentally tonight, and I thought I
Such
smelled
an
it.
idiot.
And I was like, I called my wife. I was like, hey, I put the blue packet one because we have a blue packet and an orange packet hot teas. And she was like, that's the Sleepy Time one. And I was like, son of a bitch.
So you're gonna be zonked out in an hour.
I don't think it makes you tired though. I think it just relaxes you. And I do feel relaxed, but not as relaxed as I'm going to be when I get on that ghost bed. Baby.
I don't know what was in that tea, man.
You said it like a
I'm
2000
trying.
pop
It's
star.
the first time I didn't want to go with that ever. And they're a
But
sponsor.
you know what? They've been a loyal
75
sponsor.
hard men on a ghost bed.
That sounds like a dream come true for Mike. They have been a loyal sponsor with the Drinking Bros for at least 6 years now, almost 6 years. And everyone raves about them. Super comfortable mattresses that last forever, made in the good old
USA. USA.
Right, we got the guns up, giddy up right tonight. That means we cannot get the USA right.
Can't
'Cause
have
we
both.
can't bat
Can't
it.
have it
Can't
all.
bet 1,000. Every mattress has a 20-year warranty. Some even have 25. You can try it out for 101 nights, not 98, not 99, but 101. If you don't like it, you can send it back. No hard feelings, but you won't. One of our favorite parts about Ghost Bed is that each mattress has that cooling technology in it. So while you're doing 75 hard, you can stay cool, baby. Ghost Bed also offers bundles so that you can get everything you need. You don't even have to really think about it. Choose from their 4 mattresses and pick your bundle. Whether you need a mattress and a frame or you want it all, I want it all. I want it all. And I want 75 hard. Like their cooling pillows and sheets, you can get the best bang for your buck right now. GhostBed is offering 40% off. GhostBed bundles where you get a mattress and adjustable base or 30% off everything if you use that code Drinking Bros. That's DRINKIM Bros at ghostbed.com/Drinking Bros. And you can buy a mattress for like $35 a month, 0 down, 0% financing. That's if you have firefighter credit. So go check out ghostbed.com/Drinking Bros. Sleep so good, it's scary.
Episode is also brought to you by Manscaped. What's our Manscaped code? And listen, guys, we cannot even come close to replicating our 5-minute long Manscaped escapade from last Friday's show. So, and
We're gonna-
also last
We're going to
Friday's
shave a little bit off of this one.
Well, we're gonna when we got a question for Brandon. The first question is gonna be about this with Brandon. We bring him on in a second, but he may not want to discuss it. But you got to go back. Was last Friday's show it wasn't the synagogue?
Yeah, it
It
was
was
our
just a
first one.
news roundup, right? Like we
Yeah,
just
yeah,
did
yeah.
like an off the blotter. We talked about news, law enforcement related news. Man, it was a fun episode, and go back and listen to our Manscaped ad read. But seriously, guys, you can get your Manscaped stuff in time for Valentine's Day. Give your lady, preferably your lawfully wedded wife, a better experience.
Yeah.
Coming up this Valentine's Day. Come on, man. Clear the runway. Don't make them land a bush plane. Clear that runway.
Why do they
Get
have a plane?
It's just an analogy. I didn't say it was good. Whatever. All
Shave
right,
them
that's enough. That's
down.
enough, man.
Get 20% off right now and free shipping with the code Wolfpack at manscaped.com. 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Use the promo code Wolfpack. It's a new year, no pubes in 2022 with Manscaped, baby.
Do we have that YouTube clip handy from that lady?
Should always be handy.
No.
We should. Oh, we should play that
Because I wonder if we can find it. Because I
Tatum.
want to know if that was the same church that Brandon Tatum had a conversion experience at. We talk about that in his book later. Let's welcome to the show. Without further ado, B Tatum, baby.
What's
up,
up?
man?
What's up? What's up? I feel like this finna get dangerous, man.
Nah, we're trying. Yeah, it's Well, I mean, you know me. I walk less. I walk less lines than you do.
Good. Good.
But you know, it is what it is. I try to keep it real at least. What's up, man? It's good to see you again.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. It's good to be on, man.
You've always been. We've never really talked about this, but you've always been one of those people. I'm sure you've had the experience coming up in social media over the years where some people that started out around the same time as you, maybe they're not interested in talking to you anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't return the call. Maybe they're too good for you or whatever. And you skyrocketed so far beyond anything that I've ever accomplished when it comes to like your reach and your impact in this space that it's cool that if I text B Tatum, I know like you might be busy, but it's gonna get answered. It's coming back. And there's other people that I cannot say that of, so I appreciate that about you.
Yeah, man, I'm too busy grinding to be thinking my stuff don't stink, and people that I felt like I respected from the very beginning. Social media followings don't matter to me, man. I respect you.
Yeah.
You my boy. You text me. I'll try my best to respond. A lot of people wasted my time texting me. I wish I can filter them out so the people I really care about when they text me, like yourself, I can respond quicker. But I'm just a down to earth dude, man. I don't care if I'm the president of the United States, man. People that I respect them no matter what.
Yeah, man. I mean, it'd be nice if one day you would be as chiseled and good looking as maybe we are, but you'll get there one day.
I know. I need to get one of those Manscapes. Maybe I'll look as cool as y'all.
Tansey wants to know, do you manscape? Is that a part of your routine?
I'm gonna keep it real. I need to have them sponsor my show. I got one of them, man, and I Manscape. And I'm gonna be honest. I ain't trying to put people out there, but me and my wife use the same thing. We use it, put the clip on there, boom.
Yeah.
I think they got a woman one, but we too lazy to buy them. But I
know
saw
if they
that
do.
thing, and I was like, I'm gonna be honest. Like I play football, so I shaved my legs and everything when I play football. One reason was because we had the tape on there, and then I fell in love with it. I ain't gonna lie.
Oh.
And then I ride my.
I just like the way it felt. And
It's
then,
like, hey,
and then
man,
I was like,
like-
I noticed when I wore my girlfriend's silk panties when I played, I just got a few extra yards here and there, and I like the way it felt.
You know what I'm saying? I got a scholarship with them panties, man. So, but no, I like the way it felt on my legs. I ain't gonna lie. I just liked it. I felt like hair was always just nasty and it's easy to clean and whatever. So, when I started riding my bike, which is a road bike, so I used to ride about 200 miles a week on my road bike. And the culture of riding bikes, you have to have your legs shaved. It's a cultural thing because of the aerodynamics. So I used to shave my legs
That
then,
extra
and
mile
then
per hour.
and I just kept it up. And I said, man, I hate stuff on my chest and legs. I shave it all off.
Nice. All right. We're coming with the hard hitting questions. Finally get you on the show, and we go deep into the manscaping.
I was on another show. I was at a conference, a men's conference, and the guy who was moderating was like, "What men up here shave their legs?" I'm like, "I shave my legs, and I'll whoop anybody in here." So what does that mean? And they laughed, and I was serious. I was like, "Yeah, I'm the baddest dude in here." So
you gotta carry it with confidence, man, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, if you are in the live chat tonight and you're gonna like this show, I think share it up, hit the like button, all the good stuff. Get more of your friends and family in here to listen to this. Brandon, you just wrote a book that came out, Beaten Black and Blue, and I'm not one to really read cop related books at all. I don't really get into it, but I love the personal nature of this and how you weave in your personal story with a lot of the major headlines that we've had over the last few years. And I thought it was really well done, man. So kudos to you for putting it together and like you say, grinding and putting out a product like that for people to consume. It's really awesome.
I appreciate it, man. It was hard work, and however, it was simple. I wasn't trying to be anybody. I'm not going to try to write a Shakespearean, book or something like that. Jordan Peterson. It's like I just write how I say it. And some people criticize me. Most of my reviews are 5-star, but there's some people that criticize me and go, "Oh, don't quit your day job." And I'm like, "Look, I ain't a writer, and I ain't never gonna be. So if you don't like it, don't read my book."
You're not writing the next Tom Clancy novel. You're just trying to put it out there. It was definitely. I heard you when I was reading it, which I thought was cool. So whoever you had, and I got to ask you about this too, is that to edit the book, like get all the commas in the right place and everything else like that. Like whoever did that, they did a really good job of doing that, but also keeping your voice really, really clear in it. So it was good.
Yeah, that was difficult for them. I feel bad for them because my
hopefully,
grandma ain't right at all. Yeah, they spend all day trying to put them comments right and make sure the sentences make sense. So but kudos to them. But that was the goal. It was like, okay, you guys can edit it, but don't edit out the way I talk, because some of the words that I say aren't real English words. So, and so I'm like, nah, leave that in there. That needs to be the word that I say, because that's how I talk. And your grammar is going to have to take the back seat on it. But I think it was, the editing process made it go really smooth. And it was a combination of the way I speak with a little bit of grammatical integrity. So
yeah,
kudos to them.
A lot of guys
out on that.
a lot of guys now are doing the audio book first, so that they can write based off of what their audiobook was to save time editing. Is that anything you dabbled with, or no, you just go straight into writing it and then do an audio version?
No. So yeah, the way I did it was I transcribed a lot of it. I used my words, and that's why it sounded like me, because I spoke over it and then I had it transcribed into the written word. There's no way that I'll sit there and type away. My case reports, it took me all day to write them case reports. So I didn't do it that way. I had a conversation, like I spoke. Yeah. I kind of spoke my book out, and that's why it translated real well. I think the audiobook thing first is a good idea. I mean, some people would like to listen more than read, just like they listen to podcasts. They like to listen to podcasts instead of reading the transcript. No, I did. I read. Well, so there's a premium version. I got halfway through it and I said, I ain't doing no more of this.
Because that's the kind of audiobooks that I like. If you were the author, or I shouldn't say author. Yes, you're the author, but if you read it, if you were the voice narrator or whatever, that I love that. Like, if you get an audiobook, sometimes it's hit or miss how the narrator does, but if it's you, then the tone's going to come through and it's going to be a good listen.
100%, man. I read the first part of the book and I didn't get to finish, and I couldn't finish it in time for the publisher. And they like, well, we need to get something. I said, well, just have somebody read it, because I'm not in a rush. I got way too much stuff to do. And I wanted to be a premium version where I read my parts, and then the officers that I interviewed, I wanted them to read their parts. So
that's good.
Some of the things because some people, when they read my book, sometimes they're confused, thinking that my words are some of the officers' words that I interviewed. So some of the stories that they tell and the way they describe it is their words. So I wanted the audiobook to be me reading my parts and then them interjecting, so people can hear their voice and get a better feel of who they are when they read the sections of the book where it's referring to some of these officers that I interviewed. So I read a little bit of it. I may complete it at another time, but the guy who actually did my audiobook, it's funny, they picked another black guy. So some people
must be fluent in Ebonics.
Yeah. Some people thought it was me. I'm like, hey, me, but he did a good job. No, he did a really good job. I think he did a wonderful job capturing, my emotions and stuff in the book. And he was very clear. And I thought he did a really good job. I need to send him something, thank you note or something like that, because he did a really good job. A lot of people have given good feedback on that.
That's awesome, man. I don't know if we're going to be as lucky. I put extra barricades on our doors at our office tonight so that we don't get swatted, because you seem to bring Tim Poole some bad luck when you went on his show. What was that like for you to end up getting swatted while you're on somebody's podcast?
Well, it worked out for them because I was the voice of reason on the podcast to kind of give some description of like, okay, this is what officers do. This is how the process works. And no, they're not violating your constitutional rights if they have exigency and different things like that. I was a little more calm because it really wasn't that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Because it was de-escalated before it ever got to us. Thank goodness. And unfortunately for some of his staff members, they were at gunpoint outside. And so they had them at gunpoint, and the officers were able to kind of debrief.
It's a character builder.
What was going on? Yeah. Sometimes it's like a little academy. They did a little citizens academy outside. So it was de-escalated by the time it got to us. And as soon as the guy came in, and at first I thought he was going to enter and be on the podcast, and then he looked around with a flashlight, even though the lights are on, and then he got out of the room, and I said, oh, you just got swatted. I knew exactly what was going on. So
did they do that because you were there, you think, that somebody saw that you were on there and they decided, oh, now's a great time to do that?
Nah, I don't necessarily think so. That would have been a good idea, though. I mean, not a good idea because you'll go to prison for it. But if a person wanted to SWAT and to, make a point that a former SWAT officer is now in the middle of all of this stuff, maybe that could have been a point that they tried to make. But I also think it was because Tim had I forget her name. She's an incredible Congress member, or at least some people may think she is. I forget her name now, but she was on the day before I was on, and I think that people
So that Marjorie, what's her name?
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Green, yeah.
I
Green,
think I said her name right. I actually met her before she was in Congress, and she's an incredible person. She was so nice. I don't know why she get a bad rap, but she was on there before me, and I think she drew a lot of attention to the show and a lot of haters, and then they subsequently swatted him when I was there, and they also swatted him a few days later, or maybe like a week later. So
good times. Good times.
You were mentioning writing your book, and that you know like writing is hard for you, and look, I was like the worst report writer of all time when I was a cop, to the point where my wife, who's a French teacher at NC State at the time, one time I was preparing for my first big case. It was my first big homicide case, and so I told my wife, I said, listen, like here's the report. I got everything ready to go. And she's like, am I allowed to kind of take a look at it? And I was like, yeah, this is the jury. This is the copy that's going to go to the jury. Take a look at it real quick if you want. And she looked at it and she was like, oh, this is just a rough draft. And I was like, no, that's not what I give.
That's been
to the jury. And she was like, honey, no, what? She was like, this is terrible. People can't read this. And I was like, it's too late. They have to. And she was like, honey, you didn't even like, this whole thing is terrible. Like the wrong there. Like, do you not know the difference between there, and there, and where, and where? And I was like, does it matter, honey? And a sergeant approved it. It's fine. And then
Only
after that,
want a
she
conviction.
legit made me take writing classes. And then I ended up started to blog. And then I ended up, I've been working on a book now for like 2.5 years, up to like 370 pages. But I ended up becoming a really good report writer, in the point that they would make notes for the academy, and a lot of the DAs and stuff would have fun with my reports, because they would say, Mr. Tansey, could you read line 2 from paragraph 3 and just paint that picture for the jury? And I'd be like, yes. He tore his shirt off similar to the way Hulk Hogan tore his off while entering the ring in WCW 19. And it was just, we had a lot of fun with my writing. So my question, I guess, being is when you were writing reports, did you have a hard time writing reports? I
was terrible. If I could dictate the reports, I'd have been way better, right? Because I'm good at talking, but trying to put all that information in my mind and articulate it on a document and make it make sense and make it chronological, it was a little difficult for me. And then, of course, grammatically, my sergeant was a grammar. I don't want to use the other word, but she was very harsh with grammar, and she wouldn't even tell you where you made a mistake. I'll just come back at the end of the night. I'm getting ready to do a report, and I got 5 reports rejected. I don't know if you guys did it like that, but we had our reports on a computer.
Yeah.
So we would submit them, and then they would reject them, and then they'll be in our rejection folder. So I the guys on the police department before me, they had to handwrite, and when they messed up, they had to do whiteout. I couldn't have been the cop. They'd have fired me.
You can only handle one case every 2 days.
One case every 2 days, man. One shift would be just me finishing these cases. But yeah, it was very difficult for me, man. That was a struggle of mine, writing these cases. I think I overthought. I overthink too much, and I was trying to put too much in there, too little.
Well, sometimes it sucks, because if you put too much, then they use it against you. And if you don't put enough, they use it against you. It's like you have to find this thin blue line of information.
Well, yeah, because also when you have the case 2 years later, and then you refer to your case, and you're like, I have no idea what this is about. Like, I don't even remember this guy. Well, I don't even think this is me.
Yeah.
And then
Can we dismiss this?
Yeah, you're like, this wasn't even me. And then they're like, oh, sir, this is your. I remember a defense attorney called me, and they were like, hey, this is your case. And they gave the people's name, and they say, hey, you want to come in and do an interview? And I was like, I think you got the wrong person. They're like, no, we're looking at your supplement report, because I wasn't a case officer. I wrote a supplement.
Yeah.
And so they're like, we're looking at your supplement report. I'm like, this is not me. And then they showed it to me, and I didn't even remember writing it, but my name and my PR was on it. So I'm like, this had to be me. And so that's why it was so important to be thorough and articulate these things so it'll jog your memory. Citizens don't think about that. They like, oh, when you're in court and they ask you something, you go, I don't recall. And they're like, you don't recall, and it's like, no, I get there's 1,000 of these.
I've seen 70,000 people since this happened. I don't know.
I arrested 40 people the same way I arrested this person. I have no idea what you're talking about. They all blend together at the end of the day. Unless there was a shooting or something,
Yeah.
I was just messed around with the accident reports. Those are my favorite, because I could draw like random dogs or like put animals in there. Like, how can I work an airplane and a horse into this car accident? This simple 2-car, bump in the back of the gas station. How can I add that in? And then I would love it when the sergeants, because the way it works in Michigan, I don't know about you guys, because you're Arizona, you are North Carolina, Tansey. In Michigan, all accident reports are actually sent they're approved at the local level and then shipped up to the state police to give a final review or whatever. So I always loved hiding random objects in my accident reports, knowing that some knucklehead at the state police would find it and kick it back ultimately. Be like, you got to take this airplane out of here. This didn't happen at an airport or whatever.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
bad.
funny. That's funny. I used to do the same thing. You know, we went from writing, you know, we converted. I think like in maybe 2012 or something like that, we converted from, you know, drawing actual accident reports to doing it digitally on the computer. And did you guys do digital accident reports on the computer?
Yeah, the CAD on CAD or whatever.
Yeah. So it was a transition because it was easy to draw it, and then when you had to get the little roads and put them there and try to find, you know, what's a pothole look like. I mean, because they had little potholes on
Right.
there.
Yeah.
And some officers would be really, really thorough, and I tried to be really thorough so that, you know, they were impressed by Officer Tatum. He's very thorough in his case reports, and so I had all of the cones or whatever I needed in there. The vehicles, I used to position them properly, and I used to put the people in there and mark them as vehicle 1, 2, and so I did a good job on that, but it was a headache. I mean, people don't realize that writing case reports is not the sexy part of being a cop. I mean, the fun part is high speed pursuits, and you know, it's like when I'm pursuing somebody, I'm like thinking about how bad this case report is going to be because they hit a curb and they knocked over water, and you're like, oh my god, that's an accident right there.
Can't even have fun anymore. You can't even have fun while you're doing it because you know you got to write about it.
We got 5 accident scenes.
You just get out the tape recorder while you're
every time you're punching them, you're just like, golly, that's a whole nother paragraph. Oh, that's a whole nother paragraph. Oh, that's a whole nother paragraph.
I got to articulate why that second punch had to happen. But you know, in our county, and our deputies, they had an opportunity to dictate their case reports, and so they would always sound much better than us. Because city cops sound stupid and the deputies were intelligent because they would dictate their case reports and they had a report writer that would go through and grammatically correct their case reports and make sure it sound well.
Oh,
so,
that's fancy.
Dude, I got in trouble. I got in trouble for having my wife. I was emailing my wife Word documents of my reports and having her edit them and then email them back. And I got caught. Dude, it was like the end of the world, man. I had to go and recall a bunch of reports and like,
oh no,
it was a mess, man. I was a rookie. So, I mean, it was a rookie mistake.
Funny.
We chalked it off.
So I wish we were able to dictate because those guys, they just, I went to the call, you know, 1,700 hours westbound on whatever. And then somebody just makes it look real pretty and they go to court and they go, Officer so-and-so, this is an excellent report you wrote. And it's like, they didn't write it. Somebody else wrote that.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Don't mind if I do say so myself.
Right.
Hey, Lies, do you have the picture of the Beaten Black and Blue book that I want to... What? You a sexy man right there. Like, wait, is that it? Is that the cover? Is that the book cover? Is that it?
There's Black and Blue, the movie.
Oh, that's the right one.
They stole. I'm suing them.
Yeah, they need to give you some royalties off of whatever.
They should have let me act in that movie. You know,
that's what I'm saying.
Actor. And I actually was a police officer. Tyrese wasn't no police officer.
Exactly.
And whoever the other lady is, they probably never put on a uniform ever. That's one thing. That's why I never watch like police and stuff, like movies, because it's very cringy.
They get it wrong, man. It's like you have this big budget film. You couldn't have paid a real cop to consult how to hold a gun, how to do, what to do, not to rack your Glock and quote unquote take the safety off. I mean, what are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? Like,
my favorite is when you have this like really awesome SWAT team that they've waited for and they bellow out of the SWAT vehicle and they all stack up and the detective like walks in front of all of them and he's like giving them instruction. He's like, all right, I'm going to make entry. And it's like, well, why have the SWAT team, homie, if you're going to go in there with your fucking trench coat?
Yeah, it's so fake. It's so fake. It's like, it's cringy. I don't even watch it. Even my wife, she cannot watch cop movies with me, cop shows with me or nothing because I talk the whole time. I'm like, baby, you don't do that. No, you can't. They didn't even get a warrant for that. You know what I'm saying? So you don't just walk in somebody's house. The SWAT team only got 2 people. Come on, man. It's not a SWAT team. Nobody threw a flashbang. They used a ram. Come on, man. Like, that's not real.
So not a lot of people know that you're a reformed thug, man. You go into these houses with your cousins smoking weed, getting in trouble and getting the cops coming in, and I laugh my ass off at the story about your cousin being too big to get into the closet. What's can you recap that story for us? Because the kind of the book opens with that, and I've got everything in chronological order that I kind of jotted notes down as I went through the book that I want to talk to you about. But tell us about your thug days as an 8-year-old.
It was hilarious, because we used to smoke weed all the time when I was 8. I quit smoking at 8 years old. It's nuts. Funny, people don't believe me. Like, I was smoking at 7, 8. We used to go over our cousin's house, and they were older than us. So, and I'll give the scenario. Like, my cousins were poor, and we weren't poor. My dad was a firefighter, and so we had a little money. And so when we go to my cousin's house,
where was he a
my dad-
firefighter at? That
Oh,
you
yeah,
had
my
a
dad
little
was
bit
a
of
firefighter.
money.
No, he was making decent money compared to my cousins. They were poor.
Okay,
They were
compared to
food
your
stamps
cousins.
and
He's like,
and
we were
so-
rich. My dad's a
No,
firefighter.
yeah, they thought we were rich.
So you brought the weed.
No. we weren't that gangster. So we brought the money, right?
Okay.
My dad would give us like $20 for the week, so my cousin and them didn't have to pay for us to eat. So they give us like $20, and we'll go down and get little stuff from the it was a fry place. They make fries and fried chicken.
Okay.
Believe it or not. So we would go get some fried chicken and stuff. But what my cousin used to do, he used to take our little 20. He used to go to the weed man. He buy the weed and then give us back the change. Now we don't know how much weed cost. He just would give us back whatever he gave us.
A lot less than you paid, probably.
Right, he got double weed money for next time. So he used to buy the weed, and they used to get swishers from the store, a Swisher Sweet cigar, and they roll it in the weed, and they used to take us and smoke our brains out. Man, we were little, and we were smoking so much, we were dizzy, and I remember my lips felt like they were this big, and I mean, I was 8.
Years later, you wonder why you can't write a report.
I can't write a report, I can't read, and I can't think, and I can forget stuff. I'm like, yeah, all that weed we smoked. And so we went to a vacant house, my cousin and them, we were like, you can go in there so we could smoke in peace, right? My auntie and them thought we were out playing basketball. We were in there smoking weed, and it was a crack house, bro. It was a flop house. So I remember going in there, and there was needles everywhere, and we were like, this is scary,
like playing darts with them.
Right, it was spoons. It was spoons with heroin on it. So we got into a back room, and we were in a circle, and we were smoking Black and Miles, which is probably tearing our lungs up, waiting for them to roll the weed. And then we started hearing noises. At least nobody heard it but my older cousin. He kept saying, man, I hear something. And we like, man, quit being a punk, man. You ain't heard nothing, man. You being scary. Oh, man. 2 minutes later, they came in like a SWAT team. They had shotguns. They had handguns. One guy was in the window because we were right by the window, and the other guys came to the front. And my cousin, and he had to been, I mean, he was 10. He probably was 300 pounds. He go, now the closet don't have a door on it. So he go run in the closet. He can't fit. So he gets stuck in the closet with his body is hanging out. The upper part got stuck. And my older cousin said, man, if you don't get your fat out of that closet, man, I don't want to cuss, but he said, if you don't get your fat out of that closet before you get shot. And we actually laughed at him, and the cops laughed at him. And then he finally came out the closet, and we complied or whatever, and they put us in the car. I mean, it was crazy. They put us out. My oldest cousin went to big boy jail. He went to the juvenile facility.
Yeah.
Or no, he went to jail. He was 17.
Yeah.
And then they put 6 of us in a one squad car. And they put 5 of us there, and they laid one guy over the top, and we all were handcuffed together when they did it. And thank God they didn't drive too far with us. They just took us to a lot, and then they took us out, and they they asked us for our information. And we just knew my dad wasn't gonna show up, but lo and behold, man, Big Bad Tatum came in there and scared everybody. So it was a bad day for us.
Did they know your dad? They're like,
Oh, I don't know. They never said anything. They must have put 2 and 2 together. I don't know how they did it, but my dad did work for the city, so it would have made sense that they would have realized that my dad was a firefighter for the Fort Worth Fire Department, and they were Fort Worth PD. So maybe
now, how did that story go over with the oral board when you're becoming a cop? Because
man, I was 8, so they forgave me quickly. I said, this is what I did. They said, have you ever smoked weed or whatever? And I was like, yeah, when I was 8, and they were shocked.
They're waiting to hear when I was in college, I tried it once like everybody else, but no.
I was 8. I quit when I was 8. My dad made me quit when I was 8, and because I was afraid. He terrorized me. He said, he told me he was gonna kill me. So I said, I ain't smoking weed no more. It's not worth it. And then I never smoked weed again. And so it was kind of funny when I was in the police academy. They were like 8, and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm serious. I ain't lying. It was way back then, so I'm good now.
Well,
I got other stuff I did, but
obviously a good dad, right? You talk about that in there, but there's a quote here in your book. You come to a point where you say, can I just talk a moment about fatherless homes? Fatherlessness is one of the biggest ailments that we face in America. If anybody wants to claim to you that they care about a group of people, that they care about our society, that they care about the youth, that they care about somebody's life, then what they should be talking about is the fatherlessness that we see in this country. So since that seems to be such a huge point that you want to drive home in the book, what Yeah, preach a little bit, man. We give you a soapbox. Like talk about how that plays into kind of like your whole perspective on everything and how that drives you now.
Yeah, I mean, that 8-year-old boy would have been in jail, and I would have been one of the guys y'all would have arrested, or whatever the case may be. I would have never been a cop. I would have never been successful. But my dad, the fear of my father, and also the respect for my father, and an example that he set. You know, he wasn't a drug dealer. He wasn't out there doing things that were wrong. So the to come back to reality point happened every day. I saw my dad, because he went to work every day. He worked hard. He was a respectable person, and I always had an example of what a man looked like. I didn't have to go to the streets, even though I let some of the hip hop stuff drag me into wanting to be thuggy. But at the end of the day, my father was very a strong man, and if I didn't have him, me and my brother would have been doing more than just smoking weed. Because at that point, when my dad came to the juvenile facility and scared us to death, if we didn't have a dad, we wouldn't have cared. We would have smoked again the next week, because they weren't gonna get it. We were 8, and my brother was 11, so we were young kids. So they were just gonna slap us on the wrist, and we would have continued down that path. But my dad was like, I ain't having it. And so I think that not just for me, everybody, all the young men I arrested, all the juvies that I arrested as a police officer didn't have a dad. All of my family members didn't have strong dads. They were smoking weed with us. They daddy didn't care. They wasn't there, and I had a chance to see my mom meet her dad for the first time in her 30s.
Wow.
My dad see his dad later in life before my grandfather passed away. And I had an opportunity to see how it was a rough start for my mom. My mom dropped out in the 8th grade. My dad just had a GED, or he had a diploma. He graduated high school. That's it. That was it. And I feel like if my dad and my mom both had their fathers and they were actually strong men, I think that they would have been at a better starting position like I was. And that scenario happens all too often. My grandfather, my mom's dad, that fool lived across the street from the school her whole life and never said anything to her. And he lived across the street from the school when we went to Dunbar High School and never said anything to us. And when we finally met him later in life, man, you look at him, he looked just like my mom. He is, but he wasn't there. And then he ended up using drugs, and then he ended up dying of cancer. I think he did. He had a heart attack and died using drugs. So, I've been through it. I've experienced it. And now experiencing having a good father and me being a great father to my children, I feel like it's incredibly important.
Yeah. What do you think is the solution? Like in two parts. So you've got the part where police are involved in the lives of these kids on some level, when they interact with them. And then you've got people in the community that are not police officers. Everybody can recognize that, well, there's a lot of people maybe in denial that fatherlessness is a problem or is a key issue. So what do you think some good next steps are for police officers who recognize this problem, and for non-cops who say, what am I supposed to do about it? We can call it for what it is, but what do we do? What does a guy like, I don't know, in his community, he's a 40-year-old white male who goes, man, fatherlessness is a problem in our society. What can I do about it?
Yeah. So I'll start with the police. Just acknowledge that some of these young people are lost. They're not necessarily coming from a place of wanting to be evil. Some of them probably do, but most of them aren't. They're lost. They don't have any leadership guidance. Try to put yourself in their shoes for a minute. Say, if you come home and your mama's smoking crack and nobody's paying attention to you, nobody helped you with homework, you have no self-confidence, you got holes in your shoes, you got pissy sheets on the bed when you go to bed every night, and you feel like you're not worth anything. And you go to school and you're not educated and people pick on you. And so then you start feeling like, how am I gonna man up? I'm not gonna let people punk me all the time. Then you start hanging around your older cousins, start hanging around gang members, and then they make you feel like you somebody. And then they put a gun in your hand and you really feel like you somebody. And so when you perceptualize that, when you go and interact with these young men, I'm not saying put down your officer safety, but communicate with them and try to be a male role model to them when you are interacting with them. One thing that I used to do is that when I arrest these boys, after, they're detained and they in the back of my car, I talk to them. I preach to them. I speak life to them, man. I don't just throw them back there and run them to the juvenile detention center. I talk to them, man. Hey, this is not the life you want to live. You can do better than this, man. And in some cases, I will be there for them when they get out and say, hey, come say what's up to me. Come by the substation. You know, and we'll talk, you know, and it was one guy that another officer did it. He gave him clothes and stuff. Now he still was a knucklehead, went to jail, I don't know, 5-6 more times, but you know, offering a little bit more than just an arrest to somebody can make out a difference, especially as fathers. Look at these young men and father them to the best you can while you're on duty. I know that I'm not telling people to go out and skateboard with these kids when you're supposed to be taking calls for service, but if you have an opportunity to be a male example for these young people, to show them that being a police officer is not a cowardice thing to do, it's cool. I'm also a cool dude outside of the uniform. I'm doing a job, but I also have relatable things to you. You know, I like basketball too, or I'm into sports too. And so relating to them on a police level is invaluable. But I'm always of the impression that you got to be the example first before you try to tell anybody else. So you say a 40-some-year-old white man, what can I do? Be an example to start with. You know, you be married, you have children.
Yeah.
And if you have
don't
children,
be a
lead.
piece of shit, father.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you do the right thing.
So when you do the right thing, you will become a visible example. So when somebody do lean on you and say, you know, what do you got to say to me? Or they look at your lifestyle and say, well, what can I do? Or how can you help me? They can see that, look, I'm doing this. I'm not telling you something I read in the book. I'm showing you what I know as a father and as a man who's married. These are the benefits that you have with that. And so being that example first and foremost, and always speaking up for truth, no matter what the environment is, because it's hard to talk about minority issues if you're white. I mean, let's be honest, but people can't cower in that environment. You have to stand up for what's true. And if it's true for minorities, it's true for white people, it's true for Asian people. Like, you need a father in the home, and that should be, you know, the forefront of conversations.
It's funny that you talk about it, because Mike and I had this conversation the other week, but my social media is not even close to you guys. It's like I'm looking at 3,000 right now, so I'm really doing.
Gotta start somewhere, man.
I'm really doing good. I've just never really been into that stuff. I don't like to. This is all new to me, really. But I do so much things with my kids, and you know, one of the things I'll just randomly get on the storyboard and be like, hey, try not to be a piece of shit father today. You know, because people like really need to be reminded that there's a lot of cops out there. There's a lot of people that just wake up and they're just not good parents. They might be a great cop, but they're not a good husband. You might be a good actor. You know, I go to a lot of these functions with all these like influencers. I get to go to all these things, man. But you know, it sucks when you fall in love with one of these guys and you're on Instagram and you follow them and you think they're like really inspirational people. And then you go out to a club with them in a different state, in a different city, and you watching them, you know, hit on waitresses and everything, even though that they put on Instagram that they, you know, family first. And my wife is so beautiful. And the next thing you know, you're like, you see them, they're like, hey, baby girl, let me get a picture with you. And you're like, come on, man. Like, how about you just not be a piece of shit?
Yeah.
And so it's like, I try to, you know, I was telling Mike, like, I think that's kind of like been my thing, is like, hey, how about you be a good husband? And why don't you be a good father? Try doing that, and try not to do things so much for clout. I think that goes a long way with cops. Like, go out there and play basketball, but you don't need to put your phone out there, take a picture of yourself while you do it and put it on social media. Yeah. Meanwhile, you're a piece of shit father at home. Like, how about be a great parent, be a great husband, and be a human in the community as well?
Yeah, have integrity. That's my biggest thing. One of my pillars that I tell my company every Monday that we have our big meeting, one of the pillars is integrity, doing the right thing when nobody's watching, you know. And I tell you, you speak truth to what, you know, saying that you see people and you like, oh man, that dude is so cool, man. That's so admirable. This dude is like a #1 bestseller. This cool, man. I'm like, can I learn something from this guy? I would like to network with this person. And then you catch them out in the real world, man, and they hitting on women and talking dirty, and they talk about how they want to mess with these women and they marry, and you like, bro, you a piece of crap. Like, nothing that you do in real life, I mean, nothing you do online matters anymore. Like, that's the problem with society today, because everybody want to fix other people instead of fixing themselves. You cannot be a good role model when the rubber hits the road if you can't manage your own house. You know, I try every day to be a great father, try to be, you know, a great husband to my wife. You know, me and my wife got in an argument the other day. And what do? I say, I'm gonna go and apologize. You know, I don't care if she apologizes. She deserved to apologize to me. But I said, you know, as
you're
a
gonna
man,
get another fight now. Hope she's,
you
not
know,
watching.
I'm gonna go and I'm gonna say I'm sorry, even though I feel like I wasn't the responsible party. But as a man, these are the things that you should be concerned of. Not how many views you get on YouTube. It should be, oh, let me make sure I'm being a good father, because if somebody catch me on a camera somewhere, in a hidden camera, who is Brandon Tatum? Is he yelling at his wife or being crazy? No, that's not me. It's not going to be me then, and it's not going to be me when you catch me somewhere. And that, in my opinion, influences other people, because you never know who's watching you. Like, I was at the SHOT Show, And I saw some people out there, and I was like, oh man, I would never hang out with some of these people in real life. I would never hang out with them. But when people see me or somebody else that has integrity as well, they see you and they like, oh, this dude is cool. Like, this dude is just hanging out. He's just like I would imagine him to be online. So I think that what you said is great for men having integrity, and people focus on your own crap first instead of trying to be an activist all the time.
Yeah, that's good, man. Will you come into a part as you walk through your story, and faith plays a pivotal part in that for you? And we had played this clip of a lady giving her testimony in church last week on our Manscape read.
Licking them
As you describe you walk forward with somebody and you go through this experience, which you got to read it for yourselves, guys. I'm not going to put words in your mouth to describe it, but I want to know if this was the church that you were at. Was this happening?
And I'm a backslider. Y'all pray for me. Bible said the fool makes a man out of God. He's not to be played with. And food and life is real. I
here it
come
is.
home drunk from school, laying up with men, out here having oral sex with my mouth, licking me in balls.
The pastor had to cut her off, man. She was
Licking
just sharing
them
her testimony. Why is he stopping? Why is he stopping the work of the Lord?
Mic removal, like he's like, should I?
Pastor say, "Oh, our church ain't built for this right here."
Dude, I'd have let her rock on. I would have
You
let
gotta
her
reach
rock on with
everybody,
that,
man.
and then I would have passed out that dish.
That wasn't the place that you went to, right?
That was the place next door to the church I went to.
Okay.
They're very similar, but no. I mean, our church was very charismatic. We had people in our church that would give testimony. And I ain't never heard nothing like that. Normally you go and you pray and you do that, and maybe you'll talk to pastor about that or something, or talk to the first lady or something like that. But most people don't want to out themselves in front of everybody, because I don't care how God thinking you, everybody else ain't gonna forget that you said that you did that with people in your mouth and stuff.
I just want to go to a church and just give a testimony and do it my way and be like, I was out having threesomes, 2 blonde women at the same time. Just go all into it. Just see how far I can go.
They'll cut you off.
I know. It sucks.
You go to Joe Osteen church like that, you'll never see the light. They'll put you in jail. So, but yeah, faith was a big part of my life. Even when I was younger, it sounds like a weird story, but some people on here can probably relate. I grew up in Texas, and they had tornadoes out of control. And so I used to be terrified of tornadoes. And my earliest memories of my mama connecting me with God was that she would give me a Bible and say, hold the Bible and pray, and God will give you comfort in the tornado. And it happened every time. I used to take my Bible, go in the closet, and I felt like I had peace. Now, that could be psychologically generated in my mind, or it could have been God giving me peace as a young kid, acknowledging or having that, kid-like imagination that I allow God in like that. But I remember having God in my consciousness growing up, which is a problem with our society today. Even when I was younger, my dad used to take us to church every Sunday, and the pastor would be in there hooping and hollering. And we, that's all I remember is, I don't remember nothing he said. But we used to sleep in the church. My brother was kids, man. We'd fall asleep in the church because it was, they preach for 3 hours. But I remember being there. And then when the rubber hit the road and things got tough in college, I knew what I could revert back to. And I said, you know what? I need to get my life right with God. Maybe that'll give me a peace of mind and give me some groundwork so I can then be a better person. And then in 2008, like I say in the book, I got saved, and it changed my life, man. It really did. Instantaneous changes in my life. I quit cussing. I mean, it was a lot of things that actually changed instantaneously. And some people may not believe in that, but my whole thing is give it a try, like I did. And I believe God can work whatever things that you have in your life, he can work it out. He did it in mine. I got Young Savage tattooed across my stomach. I got my hood on my forearms. Y'all can see it right here. Eastwood, Texas. I used to have gold teeth in my mouth and stuff. I was really trying to be a thug a little bit, and when God came in my life, it was all over. And even the way I thought of white people, man, I'm not gonna lie, man. People try to act like racism is only one way. Black people, I grew up around all black people. So black people are the most racist people I know. And I couldn't date a white girl when I was growing up. Oh, you bring a white girl home? Are you crazy? You would get shunned. And this wasn't necessarily something my mom and dad said, but the culture, your peers, you would get destroyed if you dated a white woman. And then when I went to college and, you know, learned about Black history and they talk about lynching and stuff, I hated white people for a period of time. I used to just have a disdain. And when I got saved, man, it just went away. I started looking at people the way I believe Jesus wants us to look at people. And that's just looking at everybody as individuals, and we're children of God, and you treat people the way you want to be treated. This color stuff and all that bull crap don't matter. And forgiveness is paramount. You know, some people that sit up at church every Sunday and they preaching, they haven't forgiven anybody. You know, I've forgiven slavery. You know, people that have done that stuff, I forgive y'all. I'm over it. Let's move on.
So it doesn't mean, does
God
that
gave
mean
me that.
I can stop paying you the $10 a month I'm paying you for reparations?
No, you got to pay me more than that. You can't end reparations now. Hey, it's the Lord's work. It's my tithe and offering. I'll just pay. No, you know, in funny reparations, I don't believe in that stuff. I mean, like it's too late, man. Ain't none of us got nothing to do with slavery. Ain't none of us got nothing to do with Jim Crow. We ain't got nothing to do with none of that. Don't pay me reparations. Just get out my way so I can, you know what I'm saying? So I can make money and be an entrepreneur. That's all I ask for the government. You know, just get out my way.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier that you had a scholarship. We talked about, you know, athlete stuff, and you had a scholarship for football, and that you ended up not getting drafted. There's more to the story that you have in your high school experience and college experience, but I don't want to try to just rehash everything. I want to be able to push people to spend the $10 on a book. But you end up in a place where you're trying to figure out what to do. And the question that came out of that for me, because you talk about having like a very influential, like a successful, you know, millionaire dude that was in your life at the time, but you end up in policing.
Yeah.
So why is his advice, you should go get what was that conversation like, where he could point you and give you the principles and resources to succeed, which now I obviously you are applying outside of policing now, but then why not be the entrepreneur that you are now? Why not do that then? Why did you decide, you know what, working a 8-hour, 10-hour, 12-hour, 16-hour shifts or whatever it is, grinding as a cop was what you were going to do besides go into business for yourself or do something else?
Yeah, because, you know, being wealthy is a very difference between being rich and wealthy. Like, I think a rich guy would have told me, oh man, be an entrepreneur right now and go and do it. Now, wealthy people understand that character, and there's other elements that mean more than just money. Mm-hmm. Like your character and stuff and your dedication and things that you learn can lead you to wealth versus you trying to go get rich quick. And so more character and doing something that you love and you believe in is just as invaluable as, you know, making millions. And I think it will lead there if a person take the strategies and have the principles in place to do it. But, you know, he much told me that, you know, these football players are rich. I'm wealthy. Like, I make more than Tom Brady made for the rest of my life. You know, these guys, if they're lucky, they play for 12 years. Tom Brady did for like 22 years, but you know, they play for about 12 years and they out. Mm-hmm. So there's more to life than chasing being rich. So that was a principle that I took from him. And he said, if you get to a point where you are pursuing something and it's not yielding anything, I mean, then put an X on the calendar and transition to something else. He didn't tell me what something else was. He said, you need to transition to something else. And for me, at the time, being a millionaire was like, that's out of reach. I had never even thought of that. So the closest thing that I had to being successful was being consistent and having a job with benefits and stuff, because I was going to have a son at that time. I was engaged, and my wife, or my fiance at the time, was she was pregnant. So being stable and all of that, the principles of being a male leadership, being a male leader was the things that I focused on. So I wasn't thinking about being a cop, to be honest. I just needed a job that could suffice. And the police department called me back one day, and then the rest is history, man. They happened to call me first, you know, so.
Yes, please.
Yeah. That's why whenever somebody asks me, like, why'd you become a cop? And I say, it's the only other thing a C student without a college education that has a little bit of combat experience can do is they can become a cop. So that's what I did. So, you know, before I, you know, started my own distillery and all those things and got on this podcast. But people always ask, like, man, how did you go from the military to being a cop to owning a distillery? And I always tell them, that's what being a C student gets you.
Yeah, but all of those things,
lots of grinding.
Yeah, all those things you learn. Like, I wouldn't be where I'm at now if I hadn't experienced the police experience. I mean, I wouldn't even be a conservative if I hadn't experienced the police experience, because
dude, isn't that funny though? It's like every time I trained, so I was, you know, an FTO for a while, and not by choice. It just kind of something that they made me do for a little while. And I was known as the FTO that never failed anybody. And so they gave me all the hardest recruits that were failing other FTOs. They would be like, okay, you're going to go to Tansey because he's like the last chance. He doesn't fail anybody. So if Tansey can get you squared away, anyway, it could. I mean, that's just because I kind of understand how to teach people without them being afraid or stressed out or whatever. I could just get them on a level. And it was funny because a lot of times I worked the hardest beat in the hardest district in Raleigh. It's the very thickest part of the inner city. And I worked there the longest period of time without going somewhere else to detective. And I would get a lot of these, I would get a lot of Black academy students or Haitian students, somebody who had like language barriers. There was always a reason why they were not succeeding where they were at. And then they would come over, and it was crazy, is because the last two that I had, they both were very, very post Ferguson cops, right? So they had this ideal that they became cops because they were, one, Black, and two, that they were going to fix policing. And when they came to the inner city, they were the first ones that wanted to break the Constitution until I taught them. They'd be like, yo, why is she walking out here at 3 a.m. with that kid? Let's go stop her and talk to her. And I'll be like, what are you talking about? They're like, well, it's 3 a.m. She's out here pushing the stroller with the baby. She shouldn't be doing that. I'd be like, yeah, she shouldn't, but that's not against the law. They're like, no, let's jump out on her. And then I would have to be like, yo, you remember that whole thing that you were talking about when you first got in my cop car about how you wanted to change policing and you wanted to make sure that cops were doing things the constitutional way and not oppressing people? Like, homie, you're kind of oppressing somebody right now. Like, she's a Black woman walking her baby at 3 a.m. If she wants to walk her baby at 3 a.m. in America, she can. And it was funny is, like, by the time they would get out of my car, they would be like, oh my gosh, yeah, I guess my views were a little bit backwards.
Yeah. I mean, your segue into what I want to say is perfect. It blew my mind what police officers did, because when they called me, they said, hey, you want to continue the process? And I'm like, yeah. But I said, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't even know if I really want to do this. Like, I've never been a cop. And so I did a ride along with Officer Sean Payne. He's in my book. And it blew my socks off. I couldn't believe that police did that. And that dude was a freaking hero. He was like Superman to me. He was, the way he was driving too. I mean, I ain't never drove that fast before. And as cops, you're going code 3 to a serious call. I mean, you can go 80 some miles per hour through the streets, and we turning and I'm just like, dude, my heart is about to fall out my chest. And we running through the apartment. We catch this guy, he's trying to kill himself in the back of the apartment with a knife, and he's bleeding everywhere. And Sean just goes in there and they detain him, and Sean get back in the car with me, and he's like, yeah, what was you saying about your mom and them? And I'm like, bro, I'm like flustered. I'm shaking. Like, I'm visibly shaking. And I'm like, bro, like, you good? Like, you just did all that and came back in the car. I forgot what I was talking about. The drive over here, I thought we were going to die. And it just amazed me. And then once I became a police officer and went through the academy, I was like, oh my God, we got to learn all of these laws, in the Constitution. And I mean, dude, them 10-hour classes of learning traffic laws, I was just like, oh my God. And then we had to take tests every week, and you had to make like the 90 or something above. I think it was 85 above on the test. And if you don't, you fail 3, you out. Yeah. We got pepper spray. We had to fight. We had to learn how to drive and shoot and do J-turns. And that was just halfway through the academy, dude. I mean, it was out of control. I was like, I can't believe that people don't respect cops more than this. And then FTO was horrible. I became an FTO after a while, but dude, when I went to FTO, it was stressful. The third day we had a homicide. And I'm all flustered. I wasn't even driving. My FTO was driving, and he go, just get the camera. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I didn't forgot everything they told me in the academy. I don't know how to do the investigation. I'm not briefing detectives. I don't know where to start. I'm not blocking out the crime scene.
You're just walking around. You're just walking around with stapled fingers.
Yeah, they like, you ain't in the academy anymore. Just go get the camera, bro, and just stand over there so you don't contaminate the scene, and take pictures when I tell you to take pictures. And so, but, and then through FTO, I was like, dude, this is the most stressful thing I've ever did in my life. And I'll tell you this story. In phase 3, we had a high-speed pursuit. Of course, my FTO didn't let me drive because we were in debriefing. We were getting ready to go home. and the dude robbed somebody at knife point in a little pickup truck. We had air. We had, we only supposed to be 2 people pursuing. We had like 5 officers that were already pursuing the guy, and everybody's going home. And my FTO was like, no, we going home. They got it. You got K9, everything. They got it. And then the guy drives right in front of the substation, bro. He's like 5 miles away, and we hear him, and they're like, he's going westbound on Miracle Mile, and you're like, wait a minute. He's finna go right in front of the substation. And then at the last minute, dude, FTO, get in the car. So he get me in the car. We pull to the gate. The gate opens up. It's an automatic gate. And then that's when the sergeant authorized pursuit and spikes. And so we get in line. We're number 10 in line. We get on the freeway, and at this point, the guy went on the frontage. Our policy is that you have to stop for every red light. A complete stop. You can't slow roll. You got to come to a complete stop. So the guy is blowing through every light at 80 miles per hour. All the officers stopping. We got on the freeway, 80 miles per hour on the freeway. I mean, we did 140 miles per hour on the freeway. We ended up stopping in whatever pit maneuver. Long story short, that was a stressful situation. The most stressful was we couldn't do GPS. I know you guys probably the same. You can't GPS. You have to know the 100 blocks. And I got flustered one time on a code. It was code 3, level 1 call. I couldn't find it. Thank God I wasn't the first officer. I jumped on the car. I couldn't find it. And my FTO cussed me out so bad, bro. And I'm bigger than him. And I'm like, I could whoop you if I want to, but I'm so embarrassed that I couldn't find this address that, it was a complete embarrassment. But people don't understand how difficult the job is.
Yeah, I mean, even that, like, people don't understand that, like, what you just said is all those things that you just went through, right? And you're coming from like a college football star. Oh, yeah. You were like badass at football. And even then your stress level goes up, which people don't understand that, like, we do things differently when we're under high stress. And we're not even talking about going into court yet and having to talk to a courtroom or to a jury or in a bench trial. I mean, the stress never, ever, ever seems to kind of go away. But do you find that now that you're not a cop, like, things just aren't really as stressful as they probably would be to you if you weren't ever in those situations?
Oh yeah, nothing. I mean, now nothing stressed me out.
Nothing.
I mean, to be honest,
like, I've watched you on some of these interviews where some people like try to press you or they try to say some really things. And I think it's really funny because they're actually stressed out, trying to call you out. And you're just kind of laughing. Like, you're just going like, are you done?
Dude,
are you ready to listen?
Compared to a level 1 man with a gun shooting at people in traffic, like, there ain't no stress that I can face that's connected to that. Or, all these crazy calls that we used to get, a man, traffic accident, a man hanging out to be, decapitated or something, trying to go to a call like that and run the scene. I think going to the call ain't that hard, but running the scene as the first person there, having to call out this and block off traffic and call on units here, dude, that is like, I'm gonna give you a comparison. When I play football, going on the football field with 60, 70,000 people in the stands. When we played LSU, they had like 80, 90,000 people in the stands. And you're a little person in the middle of the field, and they're yelling so loud you can't even hear. And it's the biggest game. And when you make a tackle, I mean, it's the roar. It's out of control. It's so much energy. That pales in comparison to going to a level 1 call with a man with a gun that's in an apartment complex and probably have somebody in hostage point, and you are the number 1 officer, and you have to call in, less lethal and air support and all this other stuff. It's almost like it's a million people looking at you on that call because it's life and death. You miss a tackle in college football and, they score a touchdown and you probably won't play again, but you don't die. You know what I'm saying?
Right, yeah. I always think it's like, like Israelis, that they all have to join the military. Yeah. I don't want that for Americans by any means, but I think that, like, all Americans should have to do a ride along once in their life, just like you have to do jury duty. Like, I think you should just have to be called to do a ride along. And then it's like, oh shit, it's my turn to go ride with, Officer Tatum. Look at the draw.
The sad thing is some officers don't hate ride-alongs. They used to. I loved them.
I hated ride-alongs. I had a really bad experience with all my ride. My first ride-along that I ever had, we got in a car chase, and the guy broke my leg, hit my partner at 57 miles an hour. And the funny thing was, it was a black kid from New Jersey that was riding along with me, and it was a Monday day shift. And we just come off of 30 days a night. And so, it's like you're trying to reintegrate into the day shift world from being a vampire. And so it's Monday and this kid, he shows up and I mean, he's got some piss and vinegar. Like this boy's ready to go. He was a track athlete and a football player. And so he's excited, and he's dressed really good. He's got the collared shirt on with the muscles poking out and everything. And he's like, all right, are you Officer Tansey? I was like, yeah. And he's like, everybody said I'm going to have a really good time with you. And I was like, not on a Monday, baby. Not a Monday. I was like, we're going to Chick-fil-A for breakfast. We're going to do Starbucks after that. Then we're going to have second lunch. Then we're going to have lunch. And then you're out, Holmes. And so we were sitting at the Starbucks and a call went out. And a woman was being bludgeoned on the other side of town. And I could see him looking at my radio. I saw him like nodding his head like, yeah. And I just looked at him. I shut it down. I was like, bro, that's on the other side of the city, man. That ain't us. We're not going to that. And it's like 10 a.m. And the call is just getting worse and worse. He's bludgeoning the call, the 911 dispatch. It's calling 911 is getting bludgeoned. And now he's leaving in a truck and fleeing the scene. And I was like, I look at the kid and I said, if he gets on 440 and he heads east, we'll go. And sure enough, they say he's getting on whatever going east. And so the kid's looking at me like, come on. He's from New Jersey. He doesn't even know the side of town, but he knew. So we get in the car and we start going, and sure as shit, the guy ends up coming right for us. And we get in the whole ordeal, and the guy smashed his head on into another police unit. And then I get out of the car and I try to tackle him. My leg snaps, and I end up getting 12 screws, 2 plates, a pin and a rod. And the woman that he hit, my partner, she got, the shotgun rack slit her neck open, and there was, it was just a really bad scene. But we get the guy in the handcuffs and everything. And before that, I told the kid, I said, shit, dude, we're about to have a gunfight. Run. And the dude slams into the car. I get out, obviously there wasn't a gunfight, but we get through the whole ordeal. My legs all torn up and everything. And he had a bulletproof vest, and he had said he had a real tight collared shirt on. And normally we'd put the vest underneath the shirt, but he had that muscle shirt on. And I said, well, that's not going to work. Just put the vest over your fucking, over your thing. And we'll cut off the little dick sweat pouch. You know what I mean? We'll just cut that off so you don't look like a complete loser.
Anyway, man, I don't know. Tuck it in or something.
I just cut it. So he's got this outside vest on. We go through the whole scenario, and I'm on the ambulance, and all of a sudden everybody just starts drawing down on somebody. And they're yelling outside the ambulance. The 2 doors were open, so I could kind of see. And they're like, get on the ground. What the fuck are you doing? What are you doing walking up here? And the kid's like, I'm a ride along. And they're like, what? And they're like, what? And then, so I was like, hey, I think that's my ride along. And they're like, what's going on? And I was like, the kid goes, he just told me to run. And I ran and I was lost. And I got this bulletproof vest on and people were talking shit to me and I don't know what to do. And anyway, the guy wrote me this really long email that said, hey man, listen, I was a great ride along. This is not the career path for me. I'm going to go into social work.
Now they're going to put social workers out there to get shot.
No, he'll be back. He'll be back now. Brandon, you talk about, you said something earlier where being a police officer shifted your views politically, racially. Talk about what was it in your experience, especially coming into that experience where you said you had a period where, culturally speaking, you had a level of distrust for white people. So you come into being a police officer. How did that experience shift those things politically, racially, all the above?
So when I got saved in 2008, I was over all that stuff. And that's what gave me an opportunity to even think about being a police officer, because I did have anti-police sentiments in my mind. But in 2008, when I got saved, it's like God gave me a reset. And so that's the only reason I was open to policing. But then what happened was I started realizing the lies that were told about law enforcement. All these racist white cops out here. It's like, bro, I worked a day shift, with my FTO when I was in field training, because after field training, you're in the graves your whole career, unless you get some seniority. But I worked, when I was in the day shift, when I was in FTO, and like, what's the race of that guy in the car in front of us? I don't know. It's the daytime. I don't know what color that guy is. Nobody cared. I never saw a cop even focus on a race. It's really life and death. It's like, oh, is this dude gonna kill us or not? Yeah. And so seeing that and seeing what cops actually go through, and then hearing, at the time it was Obama just trashing cops, it just rubbed me the wrong way. I said, this is out of control. This is not reality. They've been lying to me. They lying to all these people for the longest. Cops are some of the most heroic people I've ever met. Most cops were good dudes, good family men, and great people in general, just out there wanting to do what's right. And you had the knuckleheads, had the ones you didn't want to work with. And you hope they got fired, but they never seemed to do enough to get fired. So so you had that dynamic, but just experiencing that made me look at the world differently, and even look at the world. Like, I mean, when I lived in Tucson and I was on the football team, I thought Tucson was relatively safe, and I'm like, oh, this is a good little city right here. Oh my God, dude! When I was a cop working a midnight shift, I'm like, people supposed to be asleep. How y'all stealing and killing and raping and shooting each other at 3 o'clock in the morning?
Because they don't have ghost beds.
Yeah, throw them in a ghost bed.
Hey, we got a question on here from the Peanut Gallery. Somebody asked, have you ever had any issue when you were a cop? Did you ever have any issues with white cops?
No, I never had an issue with a white cop. I never had an issue with a white cop uniquely, right? There was cops that were a-holes, and I had an issue with them, and everybody had an issue with the same cop.
But it wasn't like a racism thing. It was just like
I ain't never had a cop be racist towards
me. And I always try to tell people that too. It's like, I think cops, we're cops for a reason. We're pretty good at tattletaling on each other. I feel like if you ever saw a racist cop, they would, one, get exposed very quickly because it would be so outnumbered. You know what I mean? Like, it's not cool to be a racist cop. Like, all the other cops would be like, yo, that dude dropped the N-word the other day. I mean, it would go around the department like fire, and he would get fired.
Yeah, I mean, dude, the cop could be racially insensitive by saying, why are black people so loud? And then by the time we get around the department, they'll say that he called a person an N-word. So,
he still gets fired. So like,
but I think that, I will say there was people who are racially insensitive, and that's because they don't understand culture. They don't understand everybody's culture. And so I saw cops that may not have understand, even in Hispanic officers to black to white to, it was so many cultural dynamics, and some people didn't grow up knowing anything. So they would get around a community and not be aware of some of the things that black people do that are different. Something that Hispanics do. And some of these things they taught us in the academy. They had people come in and talk about the machismo perspective from the Hispanic community, meaning that when you go into a Hispanic family, you talk to the man. If you start talking, some families, you talk to the wife first, that's disrespectful. And so, we would learn some of these nuances. But I've never seen a cop be racist. I never had a problem with white cops. I mean, I'll give you a scenario. I had a guy who was racist against me, a civilian. I don't know if he was just trying to virtue signal. I don't know what he was doing. He's supposed to be a white supremacist. So I come to the scene, me and my guy, he was younger than me on the department. Me and this white officer go to the scene. The guy said, he's on the phone with 911. He said, I don't want a black man coming to my call. You got to think this is like 2015 or something. You like, bro, you behind the times. He said, I don't want a black man coming to my call. I want another white officer to come. And bro, I tell you, that rookie officer cussed him out so bad. I thought I was going to have to separate a fight. He said he cussed him. He called him cuss words. Think we didn't have no body worn camera. Dude, he ripped him a new one. Yeah. And me and him became really good friends after that. I'm like, dog, you got my back. You know what I'm saying? And so even in that, like, we became a family. Like, I think people don't understand that. Like, it wasn't white, black, or whatever the case may be. Nah. It was a family. And now some people in your family, you get on your nerves. But at the end of the day, we were all one family. I'll die for any one of the people that had the uniform on, not even just in Tucson. I would die for highway patrol. Like, we were all like a big family. And so that
easy. I mean, highway patrol is like one step above firefighters. I'm at time just a little bit. I mean, let's not get too excited. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, state troopers. I like to mess with the state troopers because they get the most offended. I get the most hate messages when I go on my little state trooper things. And it's me coming from the Army. Like, of course we make fun of the Navy and the Air Force and the Coast Guard and the Marines. It's like what we do. So I feel like, and the thing is like, we're allowed to do that with firefighters, but it's still into me to do it with state troopers too. But the state troopers really don't like it, man. They get real butt hurt. Like, it's personal. It's personal.
We talk trash to them all the time, and we talk trash to airport police. We just try. Because they have like a special assignment. We had a prisoner transport unit on our department. So and most of the time, because you got in trouble, or you a lazy cop, you go to prisoner transport, and then you just drive prisoners to the jail every day. I mean, that was all you did. And so we used to clown them. Like, if you're in prisoner transport, you're not a real officer. And that's not, we don't really believe that, but it's in jest. Like, we joke with those people. We clown them. If you're on a desk duty.
It's like, do Marines really eat red crowns? Probably. They probably do, but no, I'm just kidding.
Some of them somewhere at some point.
Somebody, and then departments that are busy, they clown departments that are not busy.
Absolutely.
Like, like Scottsdale PD or Paradise Valley PD out here where I live at. I mean, I don't think they take a call at night. You know what I'm saying? And so we were taking, each officer 10, 15 calls a night, right? And I don't know how many, we were out of control. We'd come in the shift, there'd be 30 calls holding. And so we would just be busy all night. And we heard Marana, which was north of our jurisdiction in Tucson, Marana PD, they would take 2 or 3 calls a month on night shift.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, brother, y'all not even cops compared to us, So it was all fun and games. But if the rubber hit the road and we got into a juicy situation, we all in it together. So
they all got doctorates over there because they're just and they're doing college the whole time.
Online classes all night. I mean, hey, it wasn't a bad idea. They got paid more than us.
Yeah, right.
In the car, just chill. I mean, I guess it was boring, but they would kill you watching Netflix and
they're up on they're up on all the YouTube
right
conspiracy theories and shit.
Yeah, man, dude. I think it's almost more important for those guys that are in the slower departments that they gotta train even harder, because that that moment, the test may come. Yeah. Who knows where and when? It's weird when you look at like Officer Down Memorial Page. I mean, like there's some departments you never heard of that probably just like that. They end up in like this crazy situation of a lifetime, and you never know when it's coming to you, man. It's nuts, and so we all got to train the same way. But in your book, you share your experiences, obviously, but what was it? What was going on with the purpose behind having other officers? You share the stories in their own words. They're sharing their stories, being black officers in America, and why was it important to you to include their voices in your book?
Yeah, because I felt like, I give one perspective. I worked in Tucson. I have a background, but there's other officers that experience things in different states, come from a different background. And I wanted to give an impartial take. Like, this is my stance. Other officers may think something totally different, and I didn't tell them what to say, how to say it. Some of them I disagree with a little bit. I feel like they were a little more soft than I was. I was a heavy-handed. I mean, I would say heavy-handed. I was more of a stricter police officer. I wasn't, Google Gaga and people. I ask you, tell you, and then I make you, and that's it. Yeah. But I wanted the people to get a variety of perspectives. It wasn't just Brandon Tatum's experience in Tucson. You had other officers in the book who had experiences, a few white officers who had experiences. So you can not only get the dynamic in a racial lens, but also get a dynamic from different departments, whether you municipal police, sheriff, California police officer. I think 2 or 3 of us, if you had me and Mason and Officer Sean Payne, were all Arizona police officers. So, and Officer Lou is out there in Baltimore. So giving a perspective, and he was highway patrol, state trooper. So giving a perspective from officers all over the country and their diverse experiences, I think was invaluable to encapsulate a full thought in that small book that I put in place. So I wish I could do a part 2 and get more officers in there, because I think that officers have such a unique voice, man. And I think it's invaluable. Not just Brandon Tatum, but other officers have valuable things to add as well.
Yeah, I think that goes a long way to show that you're trying to put out a message, not trying to make it about just you, but you're trying to convey some truths.
I think the truths have been like guys like you, Mike the cop, that have been telling the truth. And we always talk about the proverbial pendulum that's always swinging. And I've seen that you recently talked with Charlemagne and Bill Maher, who are completely coming out with different perspectives now. And there's a lot of people that are putting you on their shows to ask you these hard questions. Do you see a pendulum swinging right now because of because of guys like you, guys like Mike, that are putting this real information out there?
Yeah, I think the pendulum is swinging significantly, but I think that some people may not see it in the mainstream because all the idiots are the ones that are the loudest. But there's a lot of people that have learned a lot from people like Mike, because we're not telling you something we reading a book exclusively. We're telling you based on experience, and a lot of people can resonate with authenticity and experience. And so I think the pendulum is swinging. It could be because of me. It could be because of Mike. It could be because, maybe Mike may have mentioned, or somebody saw one of Mike's videos, and that person is now, still liberal in a mainstream organization. And that one video inspired that one person that can make a huge difference, and, with a multitude of different people. So we all have to do our part, man, because you never know who you inspire. Those officers inspire me, and now I impact millions of people a month. And so you never know. And I think that it's incredibly important for us to keep telling the truth, no matter how many views it is, no matter how many platforms. That's why I do what I do, man. I mean, I did interviews all day today. I don't have to do no interviews. I could just do YouTube and lay on my couch all day, you know, because YouTube is doing real well. And that's all I have to do. But I feel like it's important to get a message out there and put my voice out there, because I feel like I have the opportunity now to speak on behalf of other officers that are still working that do not have a voice. So it's important. I think the pendulum is swinging, but I think it's not as obvious in the mainstream.
You go hard in the paint. As we kind of wrap this up, I know you got to go on Fox News later, you know, the big time. But you go hard after this idea of defunding the police and social work. And so it was funny that, Tansey, you talk about this kid saying he wanted to go into social work, and now they're trying to rope social workers into this. What do you think is unwise about this move? And you know, what about departments that are adding social workers to just go on calls with cops, even, or this current cultural landscape where they think that I love the fact that in your experience, I think we relate very well. All three of us probably, we ask, we tell, we make, you know, like there's a 3-step process and you got to get to work, you know, like as opposed to, approaching everything from a naive standpoint. What do you think about that landscape? And you go pretty hard after it in your book, but what do you want to say about that?
Yeah, man. I mean, this ain't a game out here. I think people need to realize that, and that's the way I police. It ain't a game out here. I can be nice to you after you comply to what I said, but we ain't finna play in the middle anywhere, because that's how you get killed. You know, you start giving them a little bit, and they think, "Oh, I'm bold enough to try Mr. Tatum." Well, you ain't gonna try me. So we're gonna get that established right away, and then we can talk and be friendly and on the way to the jail. And that's the way I perceive things. But I think it's invaluable to have social workers in conjunction with you ain't gonna replace police. You got to be out of your mind smoking crack to think that social workers gonna show up to these domestic violence calls, all that stuff by themselves. I mean, cops die at these calls, and they have guns and vests. These social workers are sitting ducks. They're gonna create an extra victim. But our department, we collaborated with social workers and mental health professionals. So what we did was we go to the scene, we make it safe, we make sure everybody good, we stay at the scene, and then if these people need health services, we can provide that for them, especially in domestic violence situations where a woman may need domestic violence counseling at the scene. She may have been in a traumatic situation. And so we stay at the scene. We stay out front in case homeboy want to come back and get that work. So we stay out front, 2 officers out there, and we let them give her a pamphlet to follow up with her and do the service that they need. I think that that's invaluable to have if the department has the funding to do that.
But you think about like how much money that saves on report writing. I mean, because if she's handling the domestic and doing all the domestic paperwork, that's on us as cops now. Because in my department, we're responsible for all of that. I've got to do the survey. I've got to give the checklist. I've got to call, the women's, so if you had a social worker that gets to do that, that now alleviates a big portion of report writing for police officers.
Listen, man, people don't understand. They think police are God. We do everything. We got to be your counselor. We got to be the enforcer. We got to deliver your babies. We got to fight your fires, because the firefighters ain't there until you make the scene safe. You know, the second responders, it take a little bit for them to get there. I'm just joking. My dad was a retired fire chief. But, so we do everything. But people need to understand that it creates an incredible amount of stress, and they expect us to be perfect and experts in all this stuff. No, include the social worker. Just do it in a reasonable, safe environment. Include the mental health professionals. All of us were crisis intervention trained, they call it CIT trained. They train us.
Which was a great concept in theory, but of course it got red taped and then PowerPointed to death. And now it's basically a check the block for insurance purposes without really any practical knowledge. It's just
and it's not going to work.
And it's not going to work unless you go back to what CIT was originally created for, which was to give you real tools on how to deal with real crises and not just checking the block on PowerPoint. It's a whole other issue. So.
I agree, man. And you got to understand that it's not going to always work. You may negotiate with a person to be real kind to him. It was a guy, we ended up having to hit him with getting him with a ladder, which was kind of weird. But there was a guy in a thing. He was in a grocery store. He was out of his mind. He had a knife. He was eating ice cream with a knife that was this big, man. I can't get it on camera. It was like that big. He eating it with a knife, eating ice cream with it. You know, his tongue was bleeding. He was out of control. He was threatening to kill everybody. He wanted everybody to leave the store, or he was going to kill everybody in the store. I negotiated with him for 30 minutes before hostage negotiation got there. And then my sergeant took over. He called her a B. I mean, he was out of control. 30 minutes of talking this fool. He never complied. They gave him cigarettes to kind of see, hey, we give you a cigarette. Are you going to chill? He never complied ever. It was like 3 hours that they talked to this fool in the Circle K. They ended up bringing a ladder in and pinning him against the wall. And then he couldn't move because he had his backpack and we were trying to hit him with the less lethal, but he put his backpack over his body.
Oh, I gotcha.
And so when we pinned him with that ladder, an officer was able to go in and do the work on him. But, you know, some people don't listen. Some people don't want to live. They want to die. They want suicide by cop. They're at the end of the rope. You can't act like all of this is, in theory, is supposed to be applied and 100% effective. I wish that they would understand that we need tools to help us. But we're not perfect. We're not gods. And every situation is not going to be this, you know, all you got to do is talk to him. Nah, man, he don't want to talk. He done talking. Nobody could talk to him for 35 years. He ain't finna talk no cop now. He want to die. And I don't want to be the one to kill him. But if it's him or me, then we already know how that's going to go.
Yeah.
You know, so that, I wish that we could. I wish that there was a way for us to have, you know, there's a president of the United States. I wish there was like a president of policing in America, which I don't really, you know, I'm speaking in jest because I don't want police to be federalized. Right. But I wish that there was some guidance, and I wish there was a person like me that could say, "Oh no, we ain't doing that." Maybe even a police consultant to the president or something. Where we say, "No, we all that bill reform. No, we ain't doing none of that. All that talking and doing all that. No, we ain't doing that. We gonna ask you. We gonna tell you. Gonna make you. If your mental is messed up, that's your fault. They ain't got nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
You know, I let me be. I'm speaking in a what do they say, hyperbolic way to a certain degree. You know, I think there's a time and a place because people are gonna take this and say Brandon Tatum, and there's a time and a place to be reasonable with people, to try to talk them through things if it's possible. If you can get a connection with somebody. I've talked people out of suicide. I've talked people out of, you know, me having to use force against them. A lady pulled a knife on me. And then there's times I couldn't talk to a person. He hit me with an open fist and he was supposed to have a glass in his hand and I had to put the work on him. So there's time and a place for both things. I think that this is applicable, but being soft on police is how they get killed, man. I would argue, I wish I could see the body-worn camera for the last couple of police shootings because I want to see what their tactics were. Most of them were killed by African-American assailants. And I wonder, because of the climate that we live in today, are people more hesitant?
Oh, I think 100% they're a lot more hesitant. Man, post-Ferguson, I refer to policing as post-Ferguson, pre-Ferguson, because I think everything changed after Ferguson. But I mean, after Ferguson, for me, I had a man that was extremely intoxicated and he was reaching under his seat. And I said, "Hey man, what are you doing?" And he's just staring at me with these glassed over eyes, drunk as shit, middle of the afternoon, black guy. I said, "What are you doing, man?" He's like, "I'm reaching under my seat." And I pulled my gun. I was like, man, don't do that. And he was like, "I'm going to do it. You going to shoot me?" And I was like, "Oh, I would rather not, but why don't we just not do that?" And he whipped his hand out and he had a tinfoil sandwich, wrapped in tinfoil in his hand. He's like, "Man, you almost shot me over a sandwich." And he threw it out the window, you know, just kind of chucked it onto my chest. And I'm sitting there shaking with my gun out. And I holster my gun and I take him out of the car and I handcuff him. And my sergeant looked at the tape and he said, "Hey, I want to talk to you about this tape." And he said, "Why didn't you blast that dude?" And I was like, dude, I mean, he was looking at me like I could tell in his eyes he wasn't going to shoot me. And he's like, "Well, I hope your ESPN is correct." Because, I mean, if that would have been a gun, that dude would have smoked you, had the upper hand on you. You told him like 16 times. And I said, "Yeah, but what if I would have shot him? It would have been over a peanut butter and jelly sandwich wrapped in a fucking piece of tinfoil." But this guy wanted me to shoot him because he was that drunk in the middle of the afternoon and it was post-Ferguson. But I always say, going back to what you were talking about earlier, was I've always, and I told my rookie this, I always policed with an open hand of kindness, and it was up to you whether that folded into an iron fist. Right. But it always started out with an open hand of kindness.
Oh yeah,
you were the one
I didn't even cuss on duty. I was yes sir, yes ma'am to everybody. And if I can say yes sir, and whoop you at the same time. And, you know what I'm saying? Pick you up, but call ambulance for you. This gentleman needs EMS or whatever. That's the way I feel like policing should be, is that you should be very firm in policing. And people should understand that you're going to respect the police officers, you know, and if you break the law, they're going to hold you accountable. And if you fight them, you will lose miserably. That's my whole philosophy is that, you gonna fight me. You're not just gonna lose. You're gonna lose miserably. You will never fight a police officer again. Probably, maybe if you hire on PCP, you won't remember this. But you ain't gonna just fight me and I'm just gonna wrestle you. Please stop resisting. I'm gonna overcome, your use of force, a reasonable amount of force necessary to execute an arrest. That's what I'm gonna do. You know what I'm saying?
And I've seen you on the football field on some of those highlight tapes, and I don't think anybody wants any of that.
Oh man, I ain't never lost a fight in the police department, and these guys, I never picked a fight, man. I was always kind and gentle and, sir, please, but when it's on, man. And the sad thing is that nowadays people are so terrified, and I understand why, that I think that they're in the middle and they're getting killed because these criminals can smell blood or whatever you say. They can taste blood on you. They see you and they see you frazzled and they're like, oh, I'm gonna kill this guy and get away because he ain't gonna resist me. And I think the last two police shootings, or a few police shootings, one was here in Phoenix. I don't know what happened, but officer, I think his name is Moldovan.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's how you say his name. But he's recovered. Actually, he recovered and he's going to rehab. But they almost put a plug on him. But it was weird because this guy, he cornered him somewhere on a balcony. And then the guy, he said, do you have a gun? And the guy said, no. And then Moldovan got shot multiple times. He shot him while he was unconscious. And then the officers responding tackled him to the ground as he was trying to pull a gun out of the officer's holster. And I'm like, I don't understand how that scenario played out. I would like to look at the body-worn camera to say, was he being passive because he's black? Did they not shoot him into oblivion while he's trying to take a gun out of the holster of a fatally wounded officer, or a potentially fatally wounded officer? It's like
I don't
going on.
I mean, I think, well, one, I'm hoping that things are kind of starting to change as we talked about the pendulum before. But I think white cops, and I mean, not even just white cops. I think I think all cops are just scared, man. When you see guys getting 22 years in prison for doing something, like, I'm not saying that Derek Chauvin was innocent by any means, but I think 22 years is unreasonable. I think anybody else commits that crime, they get 7 or somewhere between that, 5 and 11.
It was a mixture. I think Chauvin was an idiot, but I also think George Floyd may have succumbed to his ingestion of fentanyl and methamphetamine, which is a cocktail
sure.
For dying. Like those two drugs together, you're gonna surely die.
But either way, I mean, I feel like 22 years is just unreasonable amount of time to get for that charge. Not when that's not the average, like anybody else gets that. And so I think when cops see like an nobody want. If you told me I was going to jail for 22 years, I'd kill myself. That's it. Yeah. It's over. Like, I'm not doing it. That's so I think a lot. I mean, I think in a lot of conversations that I have with cops, they're just like, dude, this is crazy. Like, I don't want to fuck up. I mean, look at the guys in Atlanta.
See, I
think they could be up for that could have been them getting 22 years. And I feel like they were fully justified in what they did. But now you're leaving it up to a jury.
Atlanta is probably a better articulation in my mind, because Chauvin, he was a dummy. I won't call him
he was a dummy, but I mean, I just, like I said, I mean, probably a bad analogy. I still think 22 years is a little
I don't
rough.
think it was a bad analogy. I just think a clear-cut, justified shooting in using Atlanta. I mean, God dang, they got in trouble for clearly justified. Chauvin had responsibility in George Floyd's death. These dudes were justified, and they got fired, and I think they want to indict them or something.
I mean, you want to, but hey, I know we got to hang this thing up because you got to go real quick. I know you're a football player. We got the Super Bowls coming up. I'm not a sports guy. Who do you got in the Super Bowl?
I don't even know who's in it.
I think it's the Rams in the Super Bowl and the Bengals, right? Okay. So I'm gonna go with the Bengals. Really? Only because I want Bortles or whatever his name is. I want him to win because that kid is a really good player.
I think our quarterback from Detroit went to the Rams. Stafford?
Yeah, and he looks like Eminem right now. Yeah. With his,
he does.
With his hair. Yeah, they posted a picture of him and Eminem together. It's pretty funny.
I'd say, man, Stafford, he deserves to win at this point. That dude is one of the greatest quarterbacks, and he's been on I hate to say it, I don't know if y'all Detroit.
No, man. Listen,
he's been on a crappy team forever.
His numbers from an objective standpoint, and I haven't participated really with the NFL for about 4 years. I just shunned it entirely. But from my understanding, his numbers that he puts up are are far and away from even like a young Tom Brady. Like at this point in his career, like he puts up great numbers. He's just been on a mismanaged team that's been mismanaged for forever.
Right. So him on a good team, then you see what happens. He going to the Super Bowl. So, but I like that. I like that one kid, man. I feel like he's an incredible story. At LSU, they won a championship. It was such a special moment for LSU, and to see him come in his second year and accomplish something that I don't think any quarterback has ever accomplished. I think taking your team to the Super Bowl in the second year, I don't think a quarterback has done that. And I would like to see the underdog type, go ahead and win that thing. Him and his wide receiver Chase or whatever his name is, they both play for LSU. That'll be pretty cool. Other than that, I don't know a single player on either one of these teams except a few of those guys. But that's interesting. I'm going for the Bengals because I feel like they're the underdog. Nice. And I want them to beat the Rams in LA. So because I can't stand California.
Yeah, there you go. Amen to that. I think we should all agree on that. We'll just want the Bengals to win on conservative principles alone.
Right. I don't like nothing from LA except my wife's family. That's it. I'll say that.
Man, Brandon, thank you so much for giving us the time to hang out, and I commend to everyone that will listen to this, people that are watching now. Go get the book, man. Drop it on Kindle. Get the paperback. Get the Audible and hear his impersonator read the narration. Whatever it is. Beaten Black and Blue, Brandon Tatum. And one of the coolest stories that we just ran out of time. I've got another 5 or 6 questions I could have asked. But
you got to have me back, man. Anytime. You my man. Anytime you want me to come
we
back.
We need to come on your show and do one of our breakdowns. Mike and I think the three of us doing a breakdown. Next time there's a real serious case, we do really good breakdowns. We do them very Big Bird to Cookie Monster. We do them very deductively by the evidence, but we love to break down all these cases.
I got something coming up too. I gotta get better on my panels because I travel so much, but we need to do more police panels, and I'd love to have you guys on to break down some of these big cases, especially the one in Tennessee that was and then the SWAT hit in Vegas Metro. I don't know if you guys seen those two, but those are some pretty good ones that I think will be really good for people to understand from a police perspective. And I obviously bring you guys on and some cops that I know to see if we can I'll see if we may have different perspectives, but give some insight.
One of the cool things in your book is that you were involved in some level in the Sophia Richter case.
Oh yeah. I was the
like,
first.
Oh man,
I was the first officer on the scene. Me and Questas, we both were the first officers there. Dude, it was out of control. I wish I could tell the story of that because it came out as a domestic violence call of a young girl jumping out of a window saying her dad was trying to stab and kill her. And she got to the neighbor's house and the neighbors were just dumbfounded because they didn't know that there was kids in the other house because they had been locked away for 2 years. The kids hadn't seen each other in 2 years. They've been locked in a room for 2 years. They hadn't gone outside in 2 years. And I couldn't, and that dude spit on my uniform, bro. And I wanted to beat his, and I think everybody would have applauded me, but I held my composure and I knew that they were going to prison for a long time.
Yeah, dang. Yeah, I was like, I saw that and I was like, no way, man.
Yeah.
What a memory. What a thing to tell your kids as they grow up and your kids and the fact that you were able to have a career like that and have an impact in some people's lives like that, man. I applaud you. I'm proud to know you, and thanks for coming on, man.
Appreciate it, man. I appreciate you guys, and thank y'all for your service and holding the line, man. We got to keep doing this to keep people informed and enlightened about what's really going on with policing. So I appreciate you guys. Have me back anytime, man. You let me know. I'll come back on, and I can have more time if Fox ain't trying to do a Skype check. I'm like, I ain't going to 10. Why you on a Skype check now? Anyway,
I'm gonna stay up. I usually don't stay up that late, but I'm gonna stay up tonight, and I'm gonna watch you on Fox News.
Even after your stupid sleepy time tea that you had tonight.
Listen, don't start with me right now.
Well, I'm gonna get out there. Man. I'm gonna get out there back to Arizona. I gotta beat the winter blues. We're about ready to get slammed here with snow. I gotta get back out there, and we need some cigar time, man. We gotta catch up.
You let me know, man. You could come stay at our house with us if you want to. We got a guest house here. You can stay with us. You have your own privacy, whatever you want. All of our friends that come, we let them stay there, and as long as you want, man, you can stay there, hang out. We'll go get cigars. I just got 40 cigars from one of my friends. Sent me a bunch of them. So
nice. Well, save one for me, man.
Oh, I got a lot for you, man.
All
Smoke
right,
you
I'll
out,
bring
man.
I'll bring you a ghost bed.
Yeah, give you a ghost bed. Yeah,
and I'll bring you the lawnmower 4.0 from Manscaped.
Yes, bring me the new version because I know they came out with a new one, but I'm too
Yeah, it's
lazy
got
to
a
go
light
on
on
the
it,
website.
man. We'll manscape in the dark. It'll be fun.
Yeah. Hey, man. Hey, teamwork, baby.
All right,
Squad
everybody.
goals. Squad goals.
Thanks for listening.
Look at
Thanks for
him
watching.
bow.
We will see you guys later on Friday morning, 11 a.m.